Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Today is the opening of the 7th administration parliament. It's a big day, and it's a good day to go back and actually evaluate what was said when the 6th parliament was opened in 2019. Because when politicians speak, when they make promises, when they make assessments, sometimes if they've been around for a bit, it's useful to go back and listen to what they said last time. You know, when I was a kid in primary school, my father promised me that if I made it into the top 5, that he would buy me a bicycle. And then in grade 3, I made it into the top 5, first term. That man did not buy me a bicycle. So from that point, I learned what the pain of broken promises was. The good news is that my mother bought me one the very next day because she was like, it's important that he understands that we will keep our promises so that he keeps taking school very seriously. So I had my BMX bicycle. It was a black bicycle, black with some white on it, right? So it was a multiracial GNU coalition bicycle, if you think about it. But promises matter, and they especially matter in the evaluation of leaders, in the evaluation of their track record and their capacity to deliver. It matters even more when you think about President Ramaphosa because he has a limited runway in his second administration to execute before the vultures in the air start circling. In a second term, in the ANC now, people have not finished their second term, particularly after ANC conferences. So we know, for instance, that the ANC is going to conference in 2027. We also know that the local government elections are in 2026. So after the local government elections, after the ANC conference, he won't really have much time. So if we say he's got between now and the end of 2026 to deliver on his mandate, then we have to look at how he did before. In 2019, this was the Cyril Ramaphosa diagnosis. He had 5 things that he focused on in his opening of parliament administration as his diagnosis in terms of what were the problems South Africa was facing. Number 1, poverty, unemployment, low economic growth. Number 2, structural legacies of apartheid. Number 3, disruptive technological developments globally changing the state of industry in South Africa. Number 4, climate change leading to extreme weather. Number 5, public finances and debt. Public finances being limited and debt. Right. What were his priorities in 2019? He identified 7 priorities: economic transformation and job creation, education, skills, and health, number 2. Number 3, consolidating the social wage through reliable and quality basic services. Number 4, spatial integration, human settlements, and local government. Number 5, social cohesion and safe communities. Number 6, building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. Number 7, a better Africa and world. Right. What promises did he specifically make? Right now, let's look at the promises. Number 1, he said, no person will go hungry in South Africa. I don't know. Do you think that has been realized in the last 5 years? Number 2, reduced cost of living. Now, when it comes to cost of living, I'm going to give you some data, some information right now. The price of rice in 2019 was 27 rands, and this is 2 kgs of rice, 27 rand 28 cents. The price of rice in 2024 is 46 rand 54 in urban areas. The price of maize meal, 2.5 kgs. In 2019, it was 22 rands. In 2024, 37 rands. The price of sunflower oil, 2019, 21 rand 68 cents. In 2024, it's 35 rand 12 cents. Price of bread, white bread, 2019, 13 rand 62. 2024, 18 rand 54. Price of eggs that is measured in this basket, 2019, 40 rands 32 cents. 2024, 66 rands 59 cents. Price of mincemeat, 2019, for 1 kg, it was 82 rands 77. And in 2024, it's 103 rands 29 cents. Price of sugar, this is 40 rand in 2019 and also in 2024, 63 Rand 98. So if you look at rice, maize meal, oil, bread, eggs, meat, sugar, nothing was reduced. What about the cost of fuel? In 2019, unleaded 95 was 15 Rand 81 per liter. And in 2024, it's 22 Rand 86 per liter. The Rand in and of itself was trading at 13.9 in July of 2019 and is trading at 18.2 in July of 2024. So these things really have not been met, or even there's been nothing that has been fixed in respect to reduced cost of living. He also said that he would reduce the costs of data and speak to companies and make sure that when spectrum was allocated, price of data would go up. Guess what? The Minister of Communications yesterday was speaking about how the price of data needs to go down. Not realized. Our economy will grow at a much faster rate than our population. Let me now deal with this issue of economic growth. Economic growth in 2019, 0.3%. In 2020, minus 6%. 2021, 4.7%. So there was a bit of a strong dip during the pandemic, and then some came up a bit in 2021. So minus 6, 2020, 4.7, 2021. 2022, 1.9%. This is GDP growth annually. 2023, 0.6. 2024, it's about 1%, or even 0.8 by some projections. So this has been the economic growth from 2019 to 2024. These are the Ramaphosa years, right? And what has been the growth of the labor force in that period of time? In 2019, the labor force was 22.4 million people. In 2024, the labor force in the first quarter was 24.9 million people, basically 25 million people. The labor force has grown by 2.5 million, or in percentage terms, the labor force has grown by 11%. The number of jobs that have been added between 2019 and 2024 is 450,000 jobs. In 2019, in the first quarter, there were 16.29 million jobs. In 2024, in the first quarter, there were 16.74 million jobs, 454,000 jobs added, or 2.79% of jobs added. So in terms of growth of the economy has not grown at the size of population growth. In terms of growth of the economy, in terms of adding enough jobs to deal with the growth of the labor force, this has not happened. Let's go back to where we were. 2 million young people will be in employment. This has not happened. Our schools will have better educational outcomes, and every 10-year-old will be able to read for meaning. This has not happened. Violent crime will be halved, if not eliminated. Wow, Cyril Ramaphosa. Violence crime will be halved, if not eliminated. Let's look at what the numbers are saying. Murder, the most violent crime that you could ever measure. In 2019, there were 21,325 murders recorded in South Africa. And in 2023, there were 27,495 murders recorded in South Africa. So when it comes to the homicide rate, this has not gone down, it has actually gone up. Right. Government will be ethical in behavior and leadership. There are people who are sitting in committees right now, chairing committees, who have been implicated in corruption. There are people who are in cabinet right now who have been implicated in corruption in the Zondo Commission. There are people who are members of parliament from the ANC right now who have been charged, such as Zizi Godwa. So the idea that government will be ethical in behavior and leadership, I don't know if that's something that has been delivered under the Ramaphosa administration. Number 9, South Africa will be a country where a person's prospects are determined by their own initiative and hard work, and not by the color of their skin, place of birth, gender, language, or income of their parents. What do you guys think? Do you think that this Martin Luther King dream has been realized in South Africa? Or do you think it still matters whether you are born black, white, whether you live in the suburbs, rural areas, or urban areas, whether your parents are making middle-class income, whether they are professionals or not? What do you guys think? Do you think that's been something that has changed? Number 10, South Africa will build factories, roads, houses, and clinics. What has been your experience in your area? No plunder of public resources. There was massive plunder of public resources during the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is something that has continued to happen. We continuously hear about corruption scandals. There was also an interesting promise that was made in 2019, which I thought was something that was reflective of the fact that it's not just government officials who are corrupt, but also companies can be corrupt. They can be exploitative and abusive. The promise was no corporate theft. But I think that if you look at many people's experience of banks, of insurance companies, of car dealerships, people still feel like they're not getting good deals in a lot of those places, and that in fact those companies are being abusive in how they take how they take advantage of people. Number 13, government will honor its undertaking to set aside at least 30% of public procurement to small, medium, and micro enterprises, cooperatives, and townships and rural enterprises. This did not happen at all. Number 14, we will pursue a comprehensive approach that makes effective use of all mechanisms at government disposal. This approach will include expropriation of land without compensation. Just now, the minister who tried to introduce this was just told to go away. They told him, no, Chief, that will never happen. Number 15, we will fix ESCOM. So I'm summarizing, there was a lot that was said about ESCOM in many of the State of the Nations over the last 5 years. And for some people, they may say that this has actually been achieved because now we are reaching a period where there's been 100 and so days without load shedding. However, in the townships, there is load reduction, which is continuously happening. So it seems as if there is now a differentiated issue where if you live in particular areas, there's no load shedding. But if you live in particular areas, load shedding is still a very big reality for you. The other thing is that the cost of electricity has gone up. One of the promises which was made actually by the president was that they would make sure the cost of electricity in and of itself went down. This is not realized. The other thing is that in the so-called fixing of ESCOM, a lot of ESCOM generation has been privatized, and the people who have benefited have been people like Patrice Motsepe, the president's brother-in-law. So whether or not that is just fine and coincidence, I leave that up to you to decide, but that's something that happened. Number 16, introduce an NHI. This has been done to a degree. The act has been signed. Increase manufacturing. Manufacturing has not increased. The Stats South Africa releases manufacturing data all the time, and you can check quarter by quarter. It has not increased. Double tourist arrivals. Doubling the tourist arrivals from 2019. It has not happened. Lowering debt. Not happened. Lowering the debt trajectory, not happened. Creation of small business incubation centers in places like the townships, this has also not happened. So last year, President Ramaphosa gave some explanations in another State of the Nation address as to why particularly this had not happened. Some of the promises that he made. He didn't say, I haven't met these promises or whatever, but he said that there were challenges with delivery because of 5 things. Number 1, the COVID-19 pandemic, right? That's one of the things that he gave as a mitigating factor for not reaching some of the ambitions that he had set out in 2019 and even in the New Dawn speech. You remember the Tumamina speech? Tumamina. 2018, New Dawn, New Hope. They talked about Mandela. They talked about, Albertina Sisulu and how this was going to be a period of new dawn. Even in 2019, there was talk about, the Natives Land Act and all of that stuff and how things needed to be shifted. But hey, it's tough. It's tough. In any case, COVID-19 was blamed. The July unrest was blamed. Load shedding was blamed. And then extreme weather events such as flooding in 2022 in KZN, Western Cape and Northwest, and then finally crime and corruption. So that's what President Ramaphosa attributed to not being able to deliver on some of his objectives. What do you think? Do you think that the neoliberal economic policy approach that has been embraced by President Ramaphosa is one that can create jobs, is one that can halve crime, halve the cost of living, and halve the cost of data? Because clearly it has not done that. Do you also think that he's not being self-aware in that he kept a lot of cabinet officials who were in the previous administration, the Zuma administration, and had not necessarily delivered and had underperformed? And he even gave some ministers who were not strong performers, serious portfolios. He gave Still and Ndebeni Abrahams, for example, Ministry of Small Business. And that has not really led to any real tangible change there. So do you think that it's fully because of the COVID-19, the July unrest, the extreme weather conditions, crime and corruption that he has not executed? Or do you think that there are some issues with the way that he has chosen his cabinet, and also with the fact his neoliberal economic approach? What do you think? That's what he promised. We'll have another conversation about what he said today, because this is going up on the same day as when he is giving the speech of the opening of Parliament. And we will compare and contrast with all of his other State of the Nation addresses to try to understand and think about where is South Africa going to go in the next 2 to 3 years when President Ramaphosa is really safe, and then think about what that means for your life, the currency, decisions that you're making. But those are the promises that were made. What do you think? I've got all the SONA speeches here. They're here in my SONA speeches file. So if you check, I've got 2018, 2019, all of them. I've got them all up in here. So it's important to check what people are saying and to hold them at their word. And I think that's something that we all have to do. What do you think, though? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, it's free, that thing. It's free. Let's have a conversation. Till the next one.